I'm Ed Callahan. I'm the host of the room, and my job today is to get off the stage as rapidly as possible. You came here to see these three folks, the authors of the data book. I've had the privilege of knowing these people for a very long time. Angela and I work up in King of Prussia outside of Philadelphia. Mark and I are the best class ever. We got together 16 years ago. We're amongst the first 10 implementers in the world. And of course, our visionary Mark here has been around for a little bit himself. So what a great team. I'm going to turn it over to Mark to do a little bit more about the three of them.
Yeah, sure. So welcome, everyone. Thank you, Ed. So Ed was my coach. I feel really bad for him.
I'm sorry.
If you don't know me, that was a little bit to handle in the beginning days of my EOS journey. So it's great to be here with you all. And I'm the visionary of EOS Worldwide. I am the honey badger that Gino mentioned on stage. Yeah. So that was fun. So with me are my two co-authors, expert EOS implementers, Mark Stanley and Mark Kalmus. And we're the reason that your luggage is just a little heavier on your way home, so we wrote the data book. So with the data book, I wanted to just set the stage, the context for why we wrote this book. And for me, it started when I was running my companies. I started 23 companies, 9 of them made it. And I would wake up in the middle of the night, cold sweats, hands sweaty, and I would text my brother, I would email my business partners, I would call them all, say, are we gonna make payroll? Did we get that deal? Whatever it was, I was just constantly on everybody all the time. So I found EOS, I found the data component and the scorecard, and the purpose of this book is to help you eliminate that feeling. Those cold sweats in the middle of the night where you just feel compelled, especially if you have a Colby profile like mine, which is 22103. I just email everybody. I'm like, how's this, how's that? I do that a little bit still. Wait, let's. But the point of the book is to help you go from that uncertain feeling to feeling completely clear and confident and using that scorecard to become unstoppable. And so that's why we wrote this book, is to eliminate that for you. So the data book is part of the Traction library. It launched just a couple of days ago on April 1st. So we're really excited about the impact that this will have to just really get you a little bit better, just 1% better in strengthening that data component. That's what we're here to do today. And so with our objectives, now Mark and Angela, they're going to do all of the teaching here. I'm going to pass it off to them and they're going to pick it up. But we got 3 objectives. Number 1 is to simply master the tools. And you're probably tired, like, oh, these are the same old tools over and over again. But it's about mastering those tools, just getting a little bit better. Bruce Lee said, I don't fear the man who knows 10,000 kicks. I fear the man who knows 1 kick and has practiced it 10,000 times. So that's what we are here to do today, to get you mastering the tools. And then apply that mastery to your data. So I want you to pay attention to everything that Mark and Angela say here, because if you do, and you apply everything we teach to your data, you'll get 10x return on your investment in the conference in the first place. So we're going to talk about cash. We're going to talk about how to drive more of it. We're going to talk about how to achieve that sense of calm and control over your business, and ultimately for you to become unstoppable. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to Mark.
All right, thank you, Mark, very much. All right, thank you. Very good. And so, as we kind of work through this, I'm going to take you into the mind of an entrepreneur, and maybe it's you. And we have in EOS, we have these things we call the 5 frustrations. So you're maybe not feeling in control, never enough profit. It's hard to get people to do what you need them to do. Sometimes you feel like you're hitting the ceiling. Nothing seems to be working. And we kind of find many folks that would work with many entrepreneurs feel this way. The great news is this isn't just a symptom or a frustration. It isn't permanent. It's just a symptom of not necessarily being in control of your data and having it help you gain clarity and confidence. So sometimes we like to think of it as, or a question for you. So not often asked, are you running the business, or do you feel like it's running you? And I find many entrepreneurs that I work with are kind of like on this bus route, on this little roundabout, more of the same each day, more of the same. And what's happening is they're bothering people. They're asking for numbers, going from department to department. How are we doing? It ends up annoying people. They're getting in the way, and just never feeling like they're getting that itch scratched, you know, of knowing what's going on. That ever anxious entrepreneur. Do you feel like this? Sometimes, anyway. So we call it the 888 syndrome. All right, we got 8 hours of work. You're going home. You got 8 hours of worry. And then you got 8 hours of sleepless night wishing that you can get that itch scratch and feel like you're more in control of your business. This is, but here's the good news. There's a way off the bus. We shift from that gut-based reactivity to that data-driven leadership. It's going to free you up, and we're going to break that more of the same kind of loop. So we're going to kind of walk you through some of that today, through the scorecard, through the measurables, and for the first time ever in the public domain, the cash flow drivers. So, now that we stepped into the mind of an entrepreneur, we've walked through the 5 frustrations, what is the way out? So now that it's clear, you kind of picture this, they're at the control board here, things on fire. What happened is, you know, they're checking the business, but the screen is literally on fire, right? And so we're in this gut-based thing, but there's no measurable, no scorecard, no data, just gut. So when we go to the scorecard, what happens is we can actually delegate accountability and responsibility. It can be tracked if we actually hold better accountability. So we're spreading out that data to others who are more accountable for it. And we get a little bit more in control of the business. So question for you as we move along, reflective. 1 to 5 scale. Where are you at, or how effectively do you believe your business currently utilizes data to drive decisions? 1 to 5. 1 is, we're flying blind, gut instinct, opinions, surprises. 3 is kind of maybe lagging indicators, unclear, not used consistently. And a 5 is kind of like we're doing pretty good with the data. So where are you at on a 1 to 5? We do this privately, no judgment coming. Any ones in the room?
Oh. Okay, couple.
Are you sure? All right, any 5s in the room?
Less.
Huh, liars. 3s in the room? All right, good. Well, listen, wherever you're at on this story, if you're a 1, we want to help, we hope today helps you move closer to 3 or 4. If you're 3 or 4 already, you hope you get some tools to kind of get to 4 or 5. If you happen to be sitting at a 5, then next year you'll be teaching this, all right? So welcome. So I'm going to hand it over to Angela. She's going to take us through how data connects it all.
Thanks. Thanks, Mark. So as you begin to master the data component, something becomes evident. Data is that one component that actually strengthens and supports all the other components in EOS. So before you get too excited, and Mark over there gets upset with me, all 6 components are really essential in EOS, right? Don't take me wrong, but data is that one that absolutely, when you strengthen it, strengthens the entire EOS system. So I'm going to show you how. So for our vision component, data helps us clarify and bring accountability to our long-term plan. We use it to measure progress against our 10-year plan, our 3-year picture, our 1-year plan, each quarterly rock. Without data, we just have hope, and hope is not a strategy. For people, when everyone has a number, we create clarity around expectations. When the right people are in the right seats, that means that every single seat has a name. It has 3 to 5 roles, 1 to 3 measurables. And that's what creates true accountability and focus. Of course, data. Our scorecard gives us a weekly pulse on our business. Those measurables create transparency and a continuous feedback loop, so we're always getting better. For our issues component, data shows us where things are breaking down. It helps identify issues earlier. It helps your IDS get even more effective. And it tells us whether our solutions are actually working. Because when it doesn't come above the line, we gotta drop it down and address it again. Our process component, so to know if your core processes are actually being followed by all, we can actually measure 3 different types of process health. Compliance, are we doing it right? Frequency, are we doing it often enough? And outcomes, are we getting the desired results that we want? So you're kind of starting to see the matrix with me. Finally, bringing it down to traction in our level 10 meetings, it's completely powered and supported by data. We review that scorecard every week. We look at the measurables every quarter, every year. We set rocks and we check progress, and all of that starts with the numbers. So that's why when we say, when you strengthen the data component, you strengthen every other component in EOS. It brings clarity, alignment, accountability at every level of your organization. Might not be the sexiest topic, but it actually works. So this is what we mean. I'm going to just bring it home for you guys. This is what we mean by this very simple but powerful truth, that data sets you free. So many entrepreneurs spend their days stuck in their business. They're fighting fires, they're chasing numbers, they're solving the same problems over and over again. I'm sure some of you guys can relate. I'm going to tell you about one of them, one of my clients, who when we started working together, she was working 70-hour work weeks most of the time. Every morning started with a new problem, a new fire. Every meeting was just like a series of swirls, different opinions. She was tired, she felt reactive, constantly asking herself, how am I really doing running this company? So we built her first scorecard. It was made up of just 15 numbers, weekly numbers that were activity-based, and we assigned that ownership throughout various members of her leadership team, so it wasn't just on her. Within 3 months, she wasn't chasing problems anymore. She was leading her business proactively with clarity and confidence. Her team was aligned, they were solving problems and issues faster, and for the first time in 3 years, she was able to take a real vacation and not have to work the entire time. So I'll take that as a win. So that's what we mean when we say when you have the right scorecard, the right measurables, the right people, you don't have to chase anything. The numbers talk, the system runs, the meetings flow, and you finally get to lead. Not just react, and you go from being in the business to working on it. And this brings me to data really gives you freedom and confidence. All right, so let's show you exactly how to use data in your business so you can take some actionable steps away from this. There are 2 key disciplines within the data component. The first one is our scorecard. It's your weekly pulse, and great scorecards have a couple key things in mind. So we have 10 to 15 measurables max. You should not need 55 KPIs, right? So just 10 to 15 that truly give your leadership team insight into how the business is performing. They're not monthly, they're not quarterly, they're weekly, because weekly helps you catch issues faster. That's how you stay proactive and not reactive. They're made up of these weekly measures, and those measures are kind of a mix of both leading and lagging indicators that show you exactly how your team is doing. They're activity-based, so meaning they focus on the things that your team can actually control and influence. There's a clear goal for each one, so you know exactly what good looks like. And someone owns it. Accountability is assigned so that we know who's responsible for driving that. The second discipline of the data component are measurables. So if the scorecard gives you a pulse on your business, measurables give you a pulse for every single person in it. We believe that everyone should have a number, and not as a way to micromanage, but as a way to bring clarity and accountability to every role. So every single person, and I get this question all the time, right? Does my customer service rep, or does the person sweeping the floors, or my electrician, do they need to have a measurable? The answer is yes. Every single person on your accountability chart should have 1 to 3 measurables. These are tied directly to their roles on the accountability chart, and they're tied to the outcomes that they're responsible and accountable for delivering. So think about it this way. If someone has a seat on the accountability chart, they should be able to answer the question, how do I know I'm winning in this role? They're objective and they provide clarity for them and for you. So this is what eliminates ambiguity, kind of guessing, subjectivity. It helps you lead with facts instead of just feelings. And just like the scorecard, every measurable has clear ownership and a clear goal. So people know what's expected, you can lead better, and your business runs with more confidence and control. Now this is exciting. There's one more additional discipline or tool that we bring into the data book. It's called the 8 cash flow drivers. I see a lot of people taking pictures of the slides. So our cash flow drivers is where we go beyond just simply tracking numbers. We start actively finding ways of how to increase profit and cash in your business. Is there anyone in the room that interests? Anyone get excited about more profit and cash? So this is typically a facilitated exercise where we work with your leadership team to identify just 6 to 8 very specific drivers that drive your bottom line. These could be margin improvements, pricing tweaks, waste reduction, maybe conversion rates, customer retention. Every single business has a unique set of these drivers. It's a very powerful exercise that turns financial performance into something your team can actually influence. They can see how their actions today drive real dollars tomorrow. So we've had so many clients, right, Mark? So many clients actually find hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars of impact just by doing this exercise and then aligning on these key drivers and making them visible to all. This is where that data component stops being a reporting function and is a cash-generating engine. Sounds pretty good to me. Later on in this presentation, Mark is actually going to walk us through exactly how to do this exercise and show you a real example of it, so stay tuned. I know it's after lunch. Stay with us. But before we do, he's going to tell us more about scorecards.
All right, thank you, Angela. Well done. So, let's take a look at what a scorecard actually looks like. Simple, visual, actionable. It isn't just a spreadsheet, it's a leadership team tool. It gives your team the pulse of the business. 4 parts of it, we already talked about this a little bit. One thing is who's accountable for it. We want one person, one name, not a leadership team, not a function, not a department. One person. Next is we've got to be clear on what the measurable is. Maybe you define that. Not lagging result, looking forward, leading indicator. We want to set a goal for that number. We like to think of it as an 80% there. So 80% is the goal we're looking for. In other words, you're hitting it 80% of the time, which means 20% of the time you're checking. And then we like to look at 13 weeks at a glance. So 13 weeks is just saying, it gives you a nice pattern and trends to see if something's off or not. So take a look at the red numbers here. That's not a signal. That's a signal. It's not a problem to worry about. If it's red, we just drop it down to the issues list. And when you're using a scorecard like this weekly, you're no longer reacting to last month's financials. You're leading with clarity and confidence in real time. So simple, easy. So how to build one? When teams struggle to build a scorecard, it's usually because they're looking backwards from the spreadsheet, not from the outcome. But really building a great scorecard is about starting with 5 outcomes. Big thank you, shout out to Dan Wallace as a contribution to this body of knowledge. There's 5 outcomes that are universal that every business wants. First thing is about every business wants to get new customers, so we're getting new business. Secondly, want to get orders from existing customers. So be surprised how much gold is already laying in the mind that already has existing customers. Second, if they want to make sure that there's having happy customers, customers satisfied and keep coming back. They want to make sure that those customers are served profitably. That's where efficiency, effectiveness, all the operational stuff comes in. And lastly, they want to make sure that they're generating more and more cash. Altogether, these 5 capture just about everything that's important to your business. Revenue growth, quality, efficiency, profitability, and liquidity. Sometimes there might be another one. Are our people satisfied and engaged in the business? Might be a 6th one if we were to add one. So let's take an example. For us to get new customers, you might track qualified leads generated or intro calls completed. So that's just a category. You're digging for the numbers, the leading indicators on that. For make customers happy, maybe it's on-time delivery rate or customer response time. Again, we're looking for the activity-based drivers. The key is to make it predictive, not reactive. You want to catch problems while they're still small, but not when it's too late. So we build the scorecard early in your EOS journey around using these 5 outcomes if you'd like to. You don't need 20 numbers. You only need the right handful of numbers and metrics that track the outcomes you care most about. And you make sure they're owned, reviewed, and used to drive decisions. That's the most important part of it. So I've seen scorecards where teams are trying to measure 35 things, and when everything's important, nothing's important. So we want to get it down to just a handful of really simple numbers that are driving your business. So this is a little test. So now, once you've started identifying potential scorecard metrics, let's check it against 3 tests. So 1, is this measurable? Is it activity-based? Are we driving it? Can we attach a behavior to it? So is it activity-based? It's hard, when it's not, it's harder to move if it's outcome-based. Second thing we're looking for, second question to answer, is it simple and clear to measure? We're not trying to go to 5 separate systems to try to compile this number in a great big measurement. We got to be easy to measure and easy to trust. More often than not, or many times in a session, I'll have a leadership team say, what's that measure again? How do we calculate that again? Like, listen, this is about the 4th quarter. We've talked about the definition of measure. We've just got to make this thing simple and impactful. The third kind of test is, does it predict the results that we want? Later on, we're going to introduce a tool called the Getting What You Want tool. That's also a big part of the data book. It has been in EOS for a while. Maybe you've seen it with some as you work with your EOS implementer. But if we're not measuring one of these, so the more yeses you can get on these 3 kind of tests, likely the better measure you'll have. Now, if it's not, then it might be a vanity metrics or lagging result. But before you finalize your scorecard, run every number through this simple lens. It's how you build a scorecard that actually drives performance, not just reports on it. Now we're going to hand this back to Angela to walk us through what I think of as the Swiss Army knife of tools, the Getting What You Want tool.
All right, the Getting What You Want tool. It's a very powerful tool. It's actually underrated. I don't think it's utilized anywhere near as much as it should be. But it's very simple, very powerful. It actually helps you connect your long-term actions and goals to your actions. This tool is all about reverse engineering success. The idea is very simple. You just start with the end goal in mind, and you work your way backwards to identifying what key actions or measurables will help get you there. So in this example that you see on the screen here, if you want to get 1 new client every month, you need to figure out what are those actions that help get you there. Do you need 1 proposal, 2 first meetings, 20 outbound touches, how many new leads? It just helps you figure out what actions need to be taken, where they need to be measured and tracked. This way you're not just tracking the end result. This is really important because it gives us 3 things. It gives you clarity on what to focus on. It's action-oriented and measurable, so you can hold people accountable, and then it helps align all of your people around what really matters. That's how you take and turn data into something that's just result-based into driving the future. So this is a blank template of the Getting What You Want tool. For those of you working with an implementer, it's actually in the back of your binder in the toolbox section. You can pull it out and use it in so many different ways, and I'm actually going to walk you through some of them. So So hopefully I'll be able to give you some ideas of how you can use it in your own business. The first way that we've seen some of our clients use this is to help set departmental goals. So you can help define specific, actionable goals that actually align with the company's vision. Because so many times, you might have your VTO at the top, and then different departments, different teams don't know how to roll up and support that vision. You can use this to help get you there. I'm going to show you an example. If you have a marketing department and their goal is to get 200 qualified leads per month, we just reverse engineer it. We figure out, because the data tells us what our conversion ratio is. It tells us that we have 5% conversion from page visitors to qualified leads. So that means we need 400 visitors per month. So if you back that out, you'll be able to tell how many blog posts, how many ads, how many outreach activities, so that ultimately you start driving that result. We can also use it to figure out personal and individual performance metrics. And this can also align with the company's broader vision. An example of this might be, for a customer service representative, if their goal is to maintain a 95% customer satisfaction score, well, that helps us identify how many specific actions they need to take for response time, or maybe tickets solved, how many, what's the expectation that'll get us that result. It should be tied to the roles on the accountability chart, and this tool can help you identify what those measurables should be for every single person in your organization. We can also use it to refine our processes. So we can use it to identify key steps that drive efficiency in our core processes. Here's an example for an operations department. If the goal is to reduce order fulfillment time by 20%, the tool can help us map out which steps need to be streamlined and measured. So here you'll see that we actually have an opportunity to reduce order processing time by 1 day, and maybe even the picking and packing time. Hopefully that'll get you where you need to be. You can also use this to solve persistent issues. So we can diagnose root causes of recurring problems and actually work on our way backwards from the outcome you want to avoid. So if late product deliveries are a continuous problem in your organization, let's reverse engineer that process. We'll figure out where the bottlenecks or where your process is breaking down. And then we can help use that to set clear metrics and service level agreement times and expectations. So maybe in this example, you need to take a closer look at final assembly problems, maybe missing materials. You'll figure out again where your process is breaking down. Oh. Now you see my example, sorry about that. All right, we can use it to forecast our sales and pipeline management. So this way, you can use it so that your sales tracking and your pipeline management goes from being this subjective kind of gut conversation, like, hey, how are sales going? And the person says, I think it's going really great. I think I'm gonna close some big deals. That tells you really nothing. We can use this tool so that the conversation shifts to be more factual and data-driven. Let me give you an example here. It has a little bit more meat on the bones here. So if my example here is to increase monthly sales by 500,000, the data shows us what our average deal size is, what our closing ratios, and then it'll tell us how many sales meetings, how many proposals, how many of those sales driving activities do you need in your organization. And then lastly, we can use it for financial planning and forecasting so that we can break down our profit goals into actionable financial metrics and activities. Here's an example here. Some of you guys might be able to relate to this. All right, so if the goal here is to increase our monthly cash flow by 50,000, probably all know there's multiple ways of addressing that, multiple drivers that'll do that. I just chose to show one here, and it's actually reducing AR days from 45 to 30. That's the goal I wanted to drive. We know that there's probably a couple other ones that will increase increase cash flow, like maybe inventory returns or anything like that. But you can use this tool in so many different ways. And I want to leave you with just this one thought before we ask you to reflect. If you ever get stuck, if you're trying to figure out, hey, there's a problem I need to solve, or there's a department that I really don't know how to measure, you can also use AI. Last week I was in a session with a law firm, and the visionary happened to be using ChatGPT prior to coming into the session as a way to prepare. And so his goal, he really wanted to improve the customer journey and increase their NPS score. But he had about $150,000 for the year to invest in different projects. He couldn't do everything that his team came up with. So he asked me if it would be okay if we would use ChatGPT in the session. I said, sure, let's try it. So they brought it up. They actually added what their current customer journey is, like was now, their intake process. They added how much budget they could allocate to new ideas. They added in there what technology and tools they were already using, and they asked the tool to give them 5 actionable recommendations of what they can do. And that helped drive some of their yearly goals and their prompts. So consider using AI also. All right, so here's a question, 2 questions actually for you to reflect on. The first one is, how can you use the Getting What You Want tool in your own business? It's a super powerful tool. The second question is, how can you coach your people so that they can start thinking in terms of desired results and not just figuring out, all right, what do we track that's the end result? Try to figure out what the goal is and reverse engineer the way back and figuring out how can they improve their scorecards, how can they better track their people, start coaching them on using this tool so that they can get better. All right. Now I'm going to turn over to Mark, and he's going to talk about 2 of his favorite topics, cash and cars.
Cash and cars. Beautiful. Thank you, Angela. Well done. Isn't that a great tool? How many have seen that tool before? How many have used the tool before? Beautiful. For those that haven't, easy, simple assignment, just gets to the end of mine, works backwards. Now, one of my favorite topics. Let me ask you, what happens when you see a light on your dashboard on your car? You just keep driving?
Yes, I probably
Yep, just keep driving about the Jeep, I think somebody said. That little engine icon shows that suddenly your stomach tightens a little bit. That's not on a full-on disaster yet. What's happening is just a little indicator that something's off. And so when the data's off, when a number dips below target, or when a trend line shifts, when a weekend scorecard turns red, that's your check engine light. It doesn't mean panic, it doesn't mean blame, it just means, something's off, we need to send it to IDS. The problem is, in many businesses, we've either disabled the dashboard or we're ignoring the lights. We're running the company by gut, and by the time we realize something's wrong, it's already a full-blown fire. That's why scorecards and measurables matter so much. Mastering your data doesn't just improve your business, it protects it. And the peace of mind, that's what the entrepreneur deserves. So, when it's off, 2 places to look. So, when a number is red, below target, or trending, it's just not a red flag, it's an invitation. It's an opportunity to ask, what's behind this, what needs attention? We'd like to start first with the people. Do we have the right people in the right seats? Are they clear on their expectations? Do they own the measurable? Are they capable, willing, accountable? Do they have the resources they need to actually do the job? Second place we look when something awesome is off is the process, right? Core process is a pretty important part of that. You heard Gina Wickman today obsessing about their core processes in their business and how that works. And so what the scorecard does is really just gives you feedback for improvement in these 2 areas. So feedback for improvement is what the scorecard does. So we move it through IDS, identify, discuss, and solve. We make some improvements in people, make some improvements in process, and we should see that scorecard starting to come right, or starting to turn the lights off, right? The check engine lights off. And that's what we're looking to do. So scorecard is an integral part of tying people and process, which are 2 of the other 6 components of the model. What I want to do, and remember the scorecard isn't the problem, it's the flashlight. What it does is it shines the light on where the issue lives. Your job as a leadership team is to follow the beam, dig in, find the root cause, and hopefully solve it together. Now, if it's still off, okay, those are the easy parts. Now a little bit more difficult. So bottom line, again, it's a signal. If your scorecard is off, don't just react, dig in. It's a die opportunity. So first thing we can do is check it back against the vision. Is our vision clear and realistic? Are we trying to ask ourselves to do something beyond, way beyond the capability of our system to deliver? So we want to make sure we're aligned. Next thing, we can evaluate scorecard alignment. Are you tracking the right numbers? Are they truly tied to what matters most, your vision and long-term goals? In EOS, of course, we've got the 10-year target, the 3-year picture, the 1-year plan, the quarterly rocks, and the weekly L10. There should be alignment through all of these scorecards to what you want in the quarter, year, 3-year, towards the 10-year target. We can reassess goals and targets. Sometimes things change and we forget to look at goals and targets, so we need to reassess them once in a while. And then absolutely need to recommit to the discipline and consistency of doing it. Are we actually reviewing it, owning it, acting on the data each week, or have we slipped into just checking the box? Remember, a system is perfectly designed to achieve the results that it's getting. Slow that down. A system is perfectly designed to achieve the results that it's getting. If you aren't getting the results that you're looking for, we have to look at the system. And these are some of the elements around the EOS system. Data connects it all. It gives you clarity to course correct, the confidence to act, and the traction to move forward. Now, this is truly one of my favorite topics. So I was standing there, and I was thinking, what's the best way to introduce this? And I was recalling the movie Jerry Maguire. And remember Cuba Gooding Jr., he was the player, he's talking to Tom Cruise on the phone, and what was his passionate plea? Show me the money. All right, all times, let's go with me. Show me the money. All right, one more time. Show me the money. Right, he's got that passionate plea, he's doing the dance and it hangs up, and Jerry Maguire's got to go to work. So, let's talk cash, one of my all-time favorite topics. But I'm a recovering cost accountant, by the way. So here's the thing. We spent a lot of time valuing the power of the scorecards. You've got that. You've got the measurables. Everybody has a number. But what's it all matter if it's not generating more and more cash in the business? As an entrepreneur, I'm investing in an entrepreneurial leadership team. You showed up to create oodles and oodles of cash. Now, we can be purpose-driven and we can be profit-driven, and both of those things do not have to be mutually exclusive. But today we're going to talk about cash. Why do we obsess over leads, happy customers, profit margins, and utilization? Because ultimately it comes back to cash, all right? And at the end of the day, cash is the lifeblood of your business. No matter how great your product is, how amazing your culture is, how well you serve your customers, it's not as much fun if you're not generating cash, right? It's the risk that you take. The reward you get is the cash for the risk that you're taking each day. So, and just like scorecards, we're going to start to help you tie these things together so we can use the scorecard to help you drive more of the cash. So let's talk about this for a second. So already we've talked about the scorecard. Remember, these are activity behavior-based measures. Then we slip over to this other side of the output. This is a simple income statement. Don't be afraid of it. Just simply revenue minus some kind of directly variable cost equal gross margin. I believe personally that every business is a gross margin or gross profit making machine, but that's a philosophical thing. We've got that we're backing out our fixed operating expenses and we're leaving this net operating income. Yours would be a very different version of this. But how do we link this? What's the bridge between the input side, the scorecard, and the output side, the income statement? In between here is this thing called the cash flow driver. Now we can take a number of those things on the input side of the business, and we can tie them to the outcomes that we're looking for, ultimately cash. So this is in the middle. So let's say your sales call number drops on the scorecard. What's your prediction on what's going to happen to revenue on your income statement? Sales calls are down. What's your prediction on the revenue side? Also down. Let's go the other way. If we're moving sales calls up, closure rate up, what's going to happen to revenue? Should go up. And so if we take this simple little equation here, revenue is a function of warm leads times closure rate times average sale. Now maybe we're measuring some or all three of those things, warm leads, close rate, and average sale, on the scorecard each week. So what we're trying to do is drive those. And it's going to take some action and activity to start to drive those. So each one of these, again, so instead of hoping for cash just to show up, what we're starting to do is put you in the driver's seat of driving more of it. So this is just this cash flow driver. I think of it as this, if you want to go back to the car analogy, this might be this little sprocket or little gear in there that say cash flow drivers is taking the scorecard activity-based, behavior-based measures and turning it more into the outcomes that we're looking for on the revenue and the gross margin and net income. Make sense? Yes. All right. How many have gone through the 8 cash flow drivers exercise with an implementer? A few of you? Excellent. Both of you have had great results. Now, before we get too far down there, this is what's going to pay for your whole trip to the conference this year, plus 2 more years for your entire leadership team, so pay attention. Now, first thing we can do, these are quick, tangible. If you sell hours, just simply bump your rates on your hourly. If you sell 100,000 hours in a month, and you bump it by $1, how much more do you get to the bottom line? All else being the same. 100,000. I don't have to chase any more customers. I don't have to improve any systems. I'm just bumping it by $1. How many in the room can sell up $1 more worth of stuff if you've got the value? Just bump it $1, right? You can do other things too. You can go 2. I'm not going to, but don't get greedy. Anyway, if you've got the value, you can move it up. Now, if you're in the product business, right? So you're selling products. Same idea. If you sell product and you can move product prices up 5 or 10%, all else being the same, you can make a huge difference, especially if your margins are tight. Too many companies underprice because they're afraid of pushback. And so, but if you deliver real value, you've earned the right to charge more. It's okay. You gotta make sure you're creating real value. Now here's the silent killer. It's called discounting. Ooh, this is a silent killer. There's a table that we work with that works something like this. If you have a 40% gross margin and you discount your prices by only 10%, you have to increase sales by 20% just to get the same gross profit. Follow me on that? 40% gross margin, 10% price discount, 20% more sales are required just to stay even, just to tread water. Now, you can say, if I discount the price by 10%, do I believe that I'll actually get 20% more sales? If you believe that, maybe it's the right thing to do. If not, consider stop discounting. Again, it's that silent killer. Some other things we can do. Now at home, I get my American Express bill every month, and I see on my American Express bill there's a $2.95 charge. You get those? It was probably some trial that I did for some little software app that I had, and they give you that 7-day weekly trial, then you don't click it, then you don't quit it, and all of a sudden I've got like 10 of these on my, and I chase them around. Guess what's happening in your business? Same thing. You've got these little nitpicking things in your expense reports that don't need to be there, and you can just go through it quickly. You can shake out 5 or 10% of your operating costs just by going through the fine-tooth comb and getting some of those things out of there. Exercise. Now, be careful. Don't get too crazy on this because you can cut too far too fast. But there's some things that I've had clients that have had cell phone bills. They go through this and they're like, hey, we're paying for 5 cell phones that we don't even use anymore. Right? Get rid of them. So then the last thing is, can we reduce waste and rework? This is where, are you doing things over again? Or are things getting delayed in the process? So look for those areas where you can reduce waste, rework, and redundancy. Be sure, though, to assess the impact. There's consequences in all things, so make sure you're making good decisions. All right, 5 little gifts for you today to think about to generate cash as soon as you leave the room. Maybe you're on a cell phone on the way out, go call it back home, get some of these things done. Now, here's how the cash flow drivers work. There's just 6 simple steps. Step 1. Draw the hub and spokes. Simple, draw the hub in there, say, I want to increase gross profit or I want to increase profit or cash flow. Then you start to draw the blanks around the spokes. So assume that these are blanks for a minute. This happens to be an example out of the book. Second, take your leadership team, first pass, and brainstorm all of the ideas for potential drivers. Remember, the scorecard is probably a good source for some of this, drivers already. Second thing, or third thing, the second pass, assign accountability. Make sure that if you agree that that's a scorecard or a driver you want to have, make sure somebody owns it by name, one person. One throat to choke, if you will. Now, third pass, set the improvement goal for each driver. Just make it 80% good. Don't have to get too greedy. Fifth thing, create action and momentum around it for improvement. So nothing happens if nothing happens, so you've got to drive it. And then last part of that is repeat the exercise at least annually. So this is kind of what it looks like. Pretty simple. This is all in the book, right? But this is something that for the first time ever has existed outside of the leadership team manual. Now, give you a real life example. So this just happened. This is a client of mine, and they're a $100 million manufacturing business. They made $4 million net profit. This is the actual work that we did, and yes, that is my handwriting. So I was okay showing it. They were okay showing it because they didn't figure you could read it anyway. But I'll walk you through the exercise. So $100 million, $4 million profit. Now we did the past, right, once, and then we identified through the past about $4 million in true bottom line impact. And there was no duplicate around the 8 spokes of the model. And so we set the goal at $2 million. Let's not get greedy. Yep, there's $4 million identified, but maybe we've got a little ego or vanity involved. Let's just go for 2. Each leader was assigned accountability. We actually set rocks in November around this. And then, so we did a 90-day check-in. They were just in a couple of weeks ago. We did a 90-day check-in. In the first 90 days, they've realized 20% of that $2 million, or 400,000 true gain. Now, this is a larger company, 100 million. 400, but 400 is still a lot of gain on 4 million profit. We reset the activities for the next 90 days and expect to get another 60%. I believe this is reasonable of that 2 million, another 1.2 in the next 90 days. And the quarter after that, we're expecting to realize all of the $2 million. Okay. Now that takes their 4 million to now 6 million. So I think this is, just let that sink in for a moment. So this is 60 minutes on the whiteboard, 60 minutes of a facilitated process using ink on whiteboard, and then coming out of there with the confidence and the clarity to take action embodied in rocks, right? And they were fired up for it. Now this is an organization whose sales had been flat. They're in a large capital equipment market, so the interest rates have increased, and they sell equipment that's $350,000 worth of stuff. So it's a commitment that takes a decision. Typically it's financed, and so they've been flat for about 12, 14 months. So they were really kind of getting anxious about where the cash was coming from. So this was really, it wasn't a life-saving exercise, but it was certainly an exercise that had a big impact for their business. So, question back to you. So the best part of this is it's repeatable. We can do it again. This works for any industry of any size using the 6 steps. And this has been my experience working with many folks that I've worked with. One of my clients is in the room. We've had a similar experience, I think. And so it's a super powerful tool. Question back to you. What would 1, 3, or 5% improvement in a few of the key areas that you have mean to your business? Super impactful. So it's a powerful tool. So if you haven't done this for a while, please ask your EOS implementer to help you through it, or just get your leadership team rallied up on Monday morning and work through the 6 steps. Not that difficult. A little bit of reflection for you. So what can you do right now to drive more cash in your business? Hope you've written down some ideas already. Second question, what are some 3 ways where you can increase revenue, decrease expenses, or just collect that cash faster? So I'm going to leave that with you as a reflection, and I'm going to hand it back to Angela to bring us home.
Thank you. All right, I see a lot of people taking pictures and writing stuff down, so hopefully you guys got a lot of great ideas here. We're almost there, so bear with us here. We do want to allow for some questions and answers at the end, so I'm going to try to just go through this so then you can ask us whatever questions you like. So when you master the data component, if we haven't convinced you yet, when you master it, everything changes. You go from guessing to knowing, from reactive firefighting to confident leadership. And real numbers provide clarity, confidence, and control to every piece of your organization. So visionaries start to see their vision becoming real, kind of coming off, their dreams coming off of that paper and being in reality in their business. Integrators get to lead better with less friction and more focus because real-time insights drive every decision. Your leadership team begins to trust in the numbers, and that's not something that all of my clients can do right now. So they begin to trust in the numbers, and that trust shifts the entire culture of the business. Because now they know what to measure, those few critical activities that drive the results. They know how to measure it, and they're using those simple activity-based numbers that everyone understands. And they have a system for reviewing it weekly, just baked into that weekly meeting pulse. And most importantly, they commit to taking action based on what the data is telling them. So sales starts knowing what to focus on, and your revenue grows. Operations run smoother, issues get solved faster. HR delivers more of the right people in the right seats because success is defined and it's measurable. Finance becomes more of a strategic partner and not just a reporter of history. More cash flows, customers are happier, and the entire team is rowing that same direction. That's the power of mastering the data component, and that's what helps you go from uncertain to unstoppable. So that all is just wonderful, great information, but if you guys don't do anything with it, your organization stays the same. So we want to be able to give you some very quick, actionable things that you can take with you right out of this presentation. Other than the obvious, read the data book. You all got it as a gift, so hopefully that'll give you so many more ideas and stories and tools to use in there. The 3 things you can start doing right away. If you don't have a scorecard, start building one right away. Just 10 to 15 key measurables. Start looking at it and ask yourself, is it giving you the right results? Is it giving you the ability to drive decision making? If you already have one, please take a look at it. See how you can make it better. The second thing you can do is take that getting what you want tool, take some of the ideas that we showed you today, and maybe use it. Maybe it'll help you figure out either a department, a process to improve. There's so many different ways to use that, so figure out how you can use it in your organization. And lastly, if you have not done the 8 cash flow drivers or it's been a while, please ask your EOS implementer to maybe include it in your next quarterly meeting as your tool, or time to dust it off and see what you can do with it. So our passionate plea to every entrepreneur, every leadership team, every person who's ever wondered, how are we really doing? We're here to say you don't have to wonder anymore. You can harness your numbers and truly master the data component from EOS to go from that uncertain to unstoppable, from being reactionary to being a proactive, confident, in-control leader. That's the power of data done right. Hopefully we've given you a lot of information and some ideas today. But we do have a couple minutes left. So we're here to answer any of your questions. Mark, come on back up here. Mark? There's a lot of Marks in this room. Yes, Mark?
Mark.
Yes, Mark. We'll do the 8 cash flow drivers again in your next session. Any other questions? Yes.
One of the cash flow drivers we created, a lot of them are accountable by just a couple of people, not the entire leadership. So is that okay that not all leadership team members are accountable for at least one cash flow driver? Because it simply falls on like 2 heads, sales and marketing.
All right. Mark's going to answer that.
There you go. Would another Mark like to answer? Yeah, so if you think about your overall scorecard, it's really good to look at the 8 cash flow drivers. Every person, I'm assuming, on your leadership team has a number that they're accountable for. So when they all have a number on the scorecard, I think that you're going to be able to relate those activities to increasing sales, decreasing expenses, shortening of AR times. You'd be really hard-pressed to not be able to find their numbers that tie directly to how business makes money and drives cash to the business. So, however, though, you might find that some of them are just a little bit less important than others. While they make an impact, it's just not all the impact. And so you might just be prioritizing there. So if we think about really just dive into that, how each person is driving cash to the business, because there is a link to that.
Don't want to feel left out.
Yeah, no, I mean, everyone has to be driving something. Yeah.
One of our companies is young, One of our companies is younger, so we have a scorecard for our older, more mature company. The younger one, I want a scorecard, but I worry about the trust thing. If I build a scorecard and I'm using kind of numbers that I'm just creating that I think will work, is it better to go ahead and create the scorecard and let them know we're open to adjusting it the first year? Or should I track the data the first year, not have a scorecard, and then I know, what my historical is to meet certain goals, and then do the scorecard?
So quick question on that. Do you have what you think is product market fit?
Yes. This is particularly as a construction company.
Okay, so yes. So a great way to think about that is we showed that little graphic with the people. I don't need it, it's fine. You can all hear me. So if you've got the accountability chart, I'm assuming, for that team, right?
Yes.
So you've got the bullet points for each, right? You know exactly what every person's accountable for. Each one of those is directly tied to a number that is on a scorecard. So how are we measuring the output of every single one of those roles of the accountability line, right? And then that then ties to the process, right? Step 1, step 2, step 3. You have processes in that business yet?
Yeah, so if it's like, I don't know how many sales calls are going to equal the revenue.
That's okay. You just start
So I
measuring.
still set a goal.
Set a
Yes.
goal.
Even though I'm unsure what the.
Absolutely. So then from the point of measuring the role, okay, let's say this is a salesperson. They've got sales calls as a bullet point here that they're accountable for. We're measuring it on the scorecard, and it's tied to a process of how to make those sales calls. And then we've got this feedback loop that's really, really tight. And every week, you're going to be running that, tight feedback loops. Eventually, you'll be able to set goals to it because we'll have some sense of conversion rates and how that all works together.
So we don't worry in the trust factor that what we're putting out there that they should get may not equate to where we want to end up. Since it's the first year we're doing it.
You don't really know. And the issue, as we showed in that graphic, the issue there might be in the goal you're setting. It might be in the process you're using to make those sales calls, because it might need some refinement to increase the conversion. Or it might be a people issue.
So you should not wait, you should set it right away, and by
Right.
far, scorecard is the tool that takes the longest to load. You're just kind of speed dating in the beginning, okay? Evolve
Right.
constantly.
Thank you.
I see your hand.
Isn't his example kind of the perfect example of starting with the getting what you want to?
Yes.
So saying, hey, I want X amount of revenue, what's it going to take? And build your scorecard based on getting what you want.
Yep.
And then if it's all red, obviously you need to adjust it. But I think for me, we've got one store that is underperforming, and the getting what you want tool is what I'm going to go back and start with and say, we need to be here. Here's how we're going to reverse engineer this to get there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When you have the right people and the right
Lovely.
goals, they should
Good work.
be hitting it about 80% of the time. Mark, you see this?
I'm loud.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have a question around the unspoken monthly or quarterly scorecard in the sense of weekly, but from an organization base, we do have numbers that are more telling in a monthly and quarterly perspective, and then year and all those kind of things. Any best practices you have around making your scorecard more holistic in the weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual?
So Mark, why don't you answer that with the casual drivers, monthly meetings, so forth. Now,
Are you answering it for me?
no,
Which Mark is the one about?
yeah, I just want to make it run.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mark. We've got 48 seconds. I would take it.
It's more of like our monthly and our weekly become cumulative to the week, like the sense of.
Yeah, that's a little bit more complex, and I would use the getting what you want tool to see if you can find weekly leading indicators to those things that you're measuring monthly. And your systems and processes just might not be sensitive enough to get to the weekly. You just want to make those feedback loops as tight as you possibly can. And if you can't, and the only thing you can do is monthly, then you might want to think about doing just a monthly meeting that you come, you review your P&L and your balance sheet, and you use the output of the 8 cash flow drivers. Okay, that is our show.
We got it.
Well, we gotta do the survey.
Mark and I are staying around if anyone didn't get their question answered. We're happy to help you guys after this.
Sorry, I was just.
I'm really trying not to, but in my defense, there's so much on my plate. Like, it's in other departments. It's good out. you want to?
So I had a meter over exchange service. So they've been helping me build it, and I've been pushing it. So it's crazy.